Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality. All right, we are back, and it's time for good vibes in the segment today. And you might know I dress casual for this segment because it is Dress for Success. Debbie Cox-Denova is in the house. Debbie, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You couldn't have gave me I'd like a wore a snazzy tie with a coat and all that.
No. We're both in HTV attire, which is perfect for the conversation.
But I've seen people that have been dressing for years. Some people dress pretty much even kill all the time. Some people mix it up. Mm-hmm. Bankers have gone casual. A lot of people have gone to the casual look. Some people really overdo it and overdress.
Yeah.
So where's the sweet spot at?
Okay, so really it's not a one size fits all. What we're talking about is more on enclothed cognition, which we've talked about before. And this is part of a larger body research called embodied cognition. And what that means is how the body influences the way that you think. So when we're talking about enclothed cognition, we're talking about the psychological phenomenon of wearing something and having it influence your thoughts and your feelings. And more importantly, the perception of who you are from the inside, who you evaluate yourself to be, but also how other people see you. So it really kind of depends on what you want to put out into the world. Some people need to be wearing a formal suit, and other people want to have more fun. They want to be seen as more, whimsical, so they wear those. And then some people want to be seen as more relatable and casual. And so, and of course, with each human being, there are different contexts in our life. So this research comes from Adam Galinsky. He's the foremost researcher on enclothed cognition. And what has long been known is that what you wear absolutely does, from a scientific perspective, influence not only the way that you think about yourself, but how other people perceive you as well.
I wear warm-ups 70% of the time now. I used to dress every day.
Okay.
But as I got older, I bought warm-ups, and I always tell people, oh, you got warm-ups on again. I'm going, they're not the same ones. I bought 30 pairs. I got 10 black, 10 gray, 10 blue.
So the question you need to ask yourself is your association to the warm-ups producing the results in your life that you want, right? So if you feel comfortable, if you have a positive association to that, then you should carry on wearing the warm-ups. It's when it starts to have a negative impact on your cognition or on the impression that other people have of you. Because no matter who we are, to some degree, we are social signaling by the clothing that we choose. And what is social signaling? That is as people, we want to create associations about who we are and what we're about based on other people's perceptions of our social affiliations, our cultural affiliations, and a big part of that is what we wear. So a lot of people will choose their clothing based on the impression they want you to have of them and the affiliations that you have in culture and yourself.
Yeah, but sometimes people dress up and then you really get to know them and you go, they're nothing like the way they dress.
Right. You can't, definitely.
So just be yourself.
Be yourself. And that's the other thing, is that a lot of people will choose their clothing based on a desire to conform or to fit in. And we've talked about belonging versus fitting in. And the reason that's true, though, is because even though we all think that we want to stand out, from a primal perspective, standing out too much actually puts you at risk, right? So to some degree, this is why you see that people in a community, even the ones who are standing out a little bit, there's a thread, a common denominator that says, I belong to this community. I fit into this community. I'm one of you, right? So that's part of the way that we choose clothing as well. There was a study that we talked about before that talked about the painter's coat. Do you remember that conversation about the lab coat and the painter's coat?
I'm not sure if I do.
Okay, so they took two groups of people, right? And they took, they took three groups. One group had to do something called a Stroop test. It's just a very simple attention sort of test, right? In their street clothing. So
I do remember
you remember that?
Yeah,
And then the next group that was given a white coat and said, this is a doctor's coat to take the same test. And the third one, same coat, same white coat, but instead of saying this is a doctor's coat, they were told it's a painter's coat. And it was very interesting because the people who came off, in their street clothes, they didn't perform very well on the Stroop test, right? The people who were told that this is a doctor's coat, they actually had 50% less errors on the testing than the group that was in their street clothing. And the painter's coats performed on par with the street clothing. So same coat, but because there's a different association to a doctor's coat of focus and of intelligence, people brought that energy to the test, and it actually helped them to actually perform better in the testing. We talked about glasses, right? How Martin Luther King did not need glasses.
Right.
He wore them to activate his distinguished self. As a culture, we sort of associate glasses with intelligence, distinguishment, just, upright kinds of, and so a lot of people.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Debbie.
We talked a lot about glasses, and what's so interesting
Right.
about this is I have now need readers, right? I resisted it for a long time, but I'll be 48 this year. And when I realized after LASIK that I needed readers, I actually was wearing, some cheap readers, and I was like, these are not the vibe, is what I said. In other words, they didn't go with what I was wearing, and so I ended up actually polling my community about which glasses looked the best before I bought it. And that again shows that social signaling is important to me. Do I look good in my glasses? Are these glasses something that represent me fashion-wise, right? That was something. So it's a little silly thing that we.
But you have big eyes, so you probably need bigger glasses.
Yes, and these are progressives, right? So the top
Yeah.
part is clear, and this part is reader. So,
Right.
so we're choosing these all the time. So it's fit, it's form, it's the material, all of that. But really, it is a lot of the associations that we have to the clothing. And then after the break, we can talk about formal wear, uniforms, the colors that we choose, and the influence that they have on our psychology as well.
All right. Great show. We're going to take a little break. Let me adjust my smart glasses here. And we'll be right back. Dress to impress. We'll be right back.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
All right, we're back with Debbie Cox DeNova, Dress for Success. And I was thinking during the break, and I have to ask you, because this is the show you could ask anything.
Yeah.
But, okay, so women will dress to the hilt.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go get the fancy, lacy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you're talking to them, they come across, they want you to think they're very conservative.
Uh-huh.
So my question to you would be, why are they dressing risque when they really want to be conservative in public?
Uh-huh.
But deep inside, they're dressing risque.
Yeah, and so you have to actually look at the way that they dress because it conveys a message, just like we talked about before. There is some social signaling happening. So perhaps there is a conservative way of their being, but they know that dressing a specific way, say to elicit a sexy look, gets them a kind of attention that they enjoy, right? Like, and you'd be surprised how many women are actually dressing mostly for women, other women. Like when a woman is in an environment with other women.
Explain that, please.
Okay, yes, I will. I mean, because it is partly for men, but women oftentimes when they go out together, you can see women always go, "Oh my gosh, your dress is so pretty. Where did you get it from? I love your hair." And that's the way we connect as human beings. If a woman felt she was going into a social situation and she was wearing something that was not going to be appreciated, not going to give her positive attention, she probably wouldn't be wearing it, right? So if she comes and she's dressing sexy and her girls are like, "Ooh, look at this, like you're so hot. Let me see, that actually feels really good for a woman. Believe it or not, a lot of times she's dressing up in part, yes, maybe if she's single or, whatever she's got, but in part just so that she can actually feel really good and
Self-esteem.
Self-esteem, right. So it's a connection kind of thing. It's social signaling. It's been proven that there are certain clothing and certain logos and brands and status symbols that when you wear it, people actually do have a higher impression of you, right? And so as ugly as that kind of feels to us, like, oh,
So it makes that person feel sexy,
yes,
confident.
yes.
It's not necessarily, I guess you just took the guys right out of the equation.
Well,
They're all
not right
going,
out,
They're
not
all
right out.
going, man, I'm feeling good that she may be dressed like that for me,
And
but she
sometimes
dressed like that for her.
And sometimes it is, but you would be surprised how often that really is a factor in when the way that women dress. There are certain things, certain brands. When we dress formally, for example, when a man puts on a suit, let's just say, right? It has actually been shown that putting on a power suit actually increases his feelings of power, dominance, his ability to think from an abstract perspective, which is a measure of his own sense of power. He actually does better, performs better. He makes better, higher dollar deals in a power suit than in jogging pants. So the way that it's for men too, right? So the dressing up may feel like, okay, this is a signal to women, and it could be in part, right? It feels good that he's getting female attention, but it has an influence also on his business partners or someone he's trying to do business with or his employees. It actually increases the perception looking at him in a nice suit. That's actual science.
But there's one exception where guys and gals can dress down and people will automatically know their status.
Okay.
Doctors.
Yeah. Okay. So I've actually talked to many, many doctors about this, and they have said that the treatment that they get in their casual clothes versus when they're wearing, for example, their lab coat or their scrubs is very different.
Yeah.
It's actually an increased level of respect and an increased level of appreciation when they're in their scrubs and their doctor attire with the stethoscope versus when they're just wearing regular clothes.
Yeah.
So even with doctors, there is, yes, you have a, if they already know that you're a doctor, there's a sense of respect. But in clothed cognition, it's about everybody. It works on everybody.
But what if the judges started letting the lawyers wear, what they call those,
Joggers?
the medical
Scrubs.
scrubs? Yeah. Why don't the judges started letting the lawyers wear scrubs with a little insignia? They could change the whole deal.
They could, but that's the thing is that you need to understand, like if you're doing casual Fridays at work, you need to understand that it actually does impact your productivity. It impacts the way that you think. It impacts the way that you show up with other people. This is actual science. So even when you have the ability to wear something, you need to start thinking about who do I want to be in the future, first of all. Start dressing like that right now. I actually encourage everyone at home to go through your closet, take out anything that has a negative association to you. You should not be wearing clothing that doesn't make you feel good.
Right.
All right. You need to be dressing for where you want to go instead of, where you've been. So if it has holes, tears, faded, go ahead and get rid of it.
I learned a long time ago, never wear anything brown. I hate brown clothing.
If you have a negative association, get rid of all the brown in your closet.
I had past girlfriends that won't want to buy brown shirt. Nope,
not
ain't
me.
gonna happen.
Now let's talk about red real quick because there's some fascinating research on red. Red has been shown to be associated with dominance. Okay, and to such a degree that in simulated sports situations, it's been shown that it actually has such an effect both on the person wearing the red and also referees and also opponents that they've actually considered that this might be something that they want to regulate in sports arenas because it conveys such a sense of dominance, such a sense of aggression. In nature, when we have a surge of testosterone, when we get angry, the cheeks turn flush red, and we are designed as human beings to respond to that. So red has a very interesting influence. Wrestlers are more likely to win their matches when they're wearing red. It's been argued that might be because of referee bias as well, but whatever it is, the color red actually has a strong influence on human beings.
And what is the most revered and looked after when people are bird watching? What do they look for?
Red.
Cardinals.
Cardinals, yes. That's so true. That's so true.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, what's wrong with a blue jay? Blue jays are beautiful too,
They're beautiful.
But there's a cardinal. Oh, there's a blue jay.
We're overlooking all the brown birds too.
Great show. We're going to see you next week on Good Vibes.